Hey, what's up, Spiceheads? We are back with a very special post-Spice World Hangover edition of On the Air, but don't worry because we got just the cure for you, and that is an exciting show. Today we're here to talk all about Flash, Undercover, including what you should be looking for as far as security when you're selecting a Flash vendor. So don't go anywhere because we're going to talk about all that and more today on the Air. And we're back, and once again, we're going to start things off with the segment that's all about keeping you, the IT pro, in the know about all the latest tech news and trends. Let's kick things off with this week's Tech Minute. In our first story, file this under, this should come as a surprise to no one, those latest rumors about Facebook charging to maintain profile privacy that you guys might have seen. Yep, it's a hoax, just like you thought. Yes, in what seems to come around every other year or so, a hoax about Facebook's privacy has gone viral, saying something about now it's official, has been published in the media, you have to now pay $5.99 a month in order to keep your Facebook profile private. And of course, you have to copy and paste this entire thing. You can't reshare it into your thing. That's how somehow Facebook knows that you're opting out of this contract or whatever. This is unsurprisingly in direct conflict with Facebook's terms of service, which states you own all of the content and information you post on Facebook, and you control how it is shared through your privacy and application settings. No one is sure why these rumors keep getting circulated, but in our experience, our advice is if you see friends and loved ones on Facebook, hi mom, replicating these, just very gently nudge them and let them know that this is not actually anything that they should be worrying about. And in our last story, and I can't find it, in our last story for all of you Linux fans who might be, all you Linux fans and all you fans of XKCD, the comic, who might be familiar with this comic where he says, sudo make me a sandwich, and he makes a sandwich. The developer, Travis Tidwell, has written a command line application where you can actually order a sandwich from Jimmy John's by literally typing in sudo make me a sandwich. This application will take your order through a series of additional prompts and relay your order through Jimmy John's online ordering systems. You can also pre-configure a JSON file with your order information, including what sandwich you want and where you want it delivered, in case you need that sandwich even more freaky fast. You can find this application on GitHub by doing a search for makemeasandwich.js. And that's it for our Tech Minute this week. As always, let us know what you guys think about the stories this week in the chat. And if you have any stories that you would like to see featured, definitely reach out to me in the community. All right, well, let's go ahead and kick things off and have you guys meet our round of experts. Like I mentioned, we're here to talk all about flash storage and flash security and encryption and why that's something that you guys need to be aware of. So for more on that, we've got an awesome panel of experts, including a Spice head from the community and an expert from Micron. So let's go ahead and kick things off with a round of introductions. Batting first, as always, we like to start off with our IT pro. So coming to us from the New York area, everyone please give a big up to Abasi Aniton. Abasi, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good.
Abasi, can you tell us a little about yourself?
I'm the director of IT at Cristo Rey, New York. It's a network of Jesuit high schools across the country. There's 30 in total. There's 2 in New York, which I manage, one in Harlem and one in Brooklyn. But the Harlem one is the bigger one where I'm concentrating all of my efforts. I love technology. We have a lot of servers, and we're right now in the process of doing an analysis of all of our storage. So we're looking at performance, we're looking at capacity, and from desktop to data center, we're basically doing an upgrade of all of our storage, and we're putting flash everywhere we can.
Great, and so you were mentioning that the school system that you work with is really interesting that the kids, they're only going to school 4 days a week.
Yes, yes. So we have an integrated corporate worker study program. So the kids go to school 4 days a week, an intense program. On the 5th day, they actually they're in a real world corporate job.
That's great.
Fortune 500 startups, and it's really good that we're actually trying to get more tech companies involved, because the one thing that many of my IT pro colleagues understand is that it's hard to get someone in the technology field with no experience. So the fact that these kids come with experience straight out of high school going into college, they're already ahead of the market curve.
That's wonderful, that's wonderful. And so you oversee 2 in the New York area,
yes.
Is that right? Okay. Which boroughs are
representing? Harlem in the city, and then Brooklyn.
Harlem and Brooklyn. So being in New York, I got some questions for you.
Sure.
All right, so being from New York, are you a JFK guy or LaGuardia guy?
LaGuardia, of course.
LaGuardia,
yes.
all right.
You can take the M60 bus right there. there.
And Jets, Giants?
Giants.
Giants all the way?
Real New Yorkers only bleed blue.
I'm not sure Lisby would agree with that, but, and then last question, pizza or bagels, and where should we go to get the best ones?
Oh, bagels in the morning, pizza any other time of the day, and pizza is Patsy's on the East Harlem, Upper East Side.
All right, really cool. I'll have to check that out next time we're in. Thank you so much, Abasi. We're looking forward to hearing from you. And our representative coming to us from Micron, everyone please give a big warm welcome to Scott Shadley. Woo! Scott, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm currently at Micron. I've been there about 15 years. I'm a product line manager, so I run a lot of our data center SSD roadmap. So I spend a lot of time talking to IT pros and vendors that would be talking to our IT pros about flash technology and their storage needs.
All right, and you've actually been involved in the flash market for quite some time. Is that right?
Yep. I started working in the enterprise SSD market in 2007. Sold the first drive into the big SAN vendors of the world in 2008, and been doing it ever since.
Okay, so if you're running a SAN that has flash in it, chances are it's because of you. Is that what you're saying?
Partly because of
you.
There's a whole bunch of other people behind the scenes, but I like to be the face. How about that?
All right, and then so here's a fun fact for you guys watching at home. When we were getting ready for the show, eating breakfast and all that kind of stuff, we asked Scott what he wanted to drink. If he wanted juice, coffee, water, and he said, I'll actually take 2 espresso shots with coffee on top of it. And we're like, Scott, you're about to go on a live show. Are you sure that's what you want? No problem at all. It seems like that's what he drinks right before he goes to bed. Scott, what is the story behind this drink?
So I've been drinking coffee ever since I started working, and I moonlight on the weekends as a barista, and my all-time record is 16 shots in 4 hours.
Oh my God.
Wow.
But yeah, so the black eye, 2 shots with drip coffee. I'm sitting there looking at a big cup of a latte on one of my many business trips, and I'm like, do I want milk or do I want coffee? Let's just put coffee on top of the shots. And I've been that straight black ever since.
I believe your exact words are, why waste this with milk when you could add
Why
more
waste the
caffeine?
space in a cup with milk? Exactly.
All right, well, Scott, you seem very calm for having someone who drank that, so we're definitely looking forward to hearing your stories later on.
I'll get faster later.
Still has to kick in. And of course, what would On the Air be with you guys watching at home? So for more on that, we're going to kick things over to our chat. Not only our chat disc correspondent, but you guys may have seen her as the MC of the entire 2015 Spice World Conference. So everyone please give a warm welcome to Chelsea.
Hey, it's me, your loyal community manager and chat desk host here on the air. That's right, it's Chelsea, East Coast represent.
Yes.
We're gonna be talking about coffee and bagels, JFK versus LaGuardia. I gotta say, I'm a JFK fan. And then of course, we have a show jam-packed with super fast flash storage. Woo! Go Micron. Alrighty. So most of you may know the drill, but for those of you that don't, I am here to make sure that your questions get answers and also to hook you up with super cool swag. So first of all, how do you ask a question? You simply type it in chat, and if I ask your question on the air, you will be entered into the running for a chance to win some super cool swag from Micron. Woo! Okay, let's find out what Micron is hooking us up with. I don't know which side it might pop up on the screen, but I do have a demo, a real-life demo in my hand right now. The first 3 prizes are going to be $20 Amazon gift cards, okay? Not too shabby. And then this may not be an On the Air first, but we will be having 2 grand prizes today. Yeah. Oh! Yeah. Okay. All right, do you guys want to know what the grand prizes are? Right here. Got it right here. Do you know what this is? This is an M510 480 gig SSD. Now, 2 lucky people will be getting these.
Dang.
Getting these sent to their homes. Thank you, Justin, for the hype. All right, I have to say, I need to give myself a round of applause because I got through this with coherent sentences after Spice World. I am definitely a little jumbled. I'm still making it through my first
Chelsea,
cup
let's
of
talk
coffee.
about that for a second, because I don't want to undersell. You were on stage in front of over 1,500 people. Presented. What was that like for you? Were you nervous?
What was it like to be on stage in front of the world's smartest audience? Well, let me tell you, it wasn't an easy job, but I'm happy that I was asked to help out with Spice World because it was a blast. Not only did I get to host a stage show for all of you really cool spice heads and spice vendors and spice workers out there, but I also got to eat tons of bacon, check out some really cool sessions, and then of course meet some of my favorite spice heads IRL. So it was a whirlwind of a weekend or end of a week, but it was so much fun. And
That is awesome.
You know what was really cool, Justin, was getting to see you hang out with the Control Alt Tech crew.
That was awesome.
How'd that go?
That was definitely a highlight for me. I mean, being on stage with the Control Alt Tech guys, it couldn't have been luckier. I got to interview a lot of the folks, including Stargeek, who posted a picture of us online, and you can definitely check it out on his Twitter. But yeah, the same thing for you. The best part about the convention for me was getting to see all the ex and former guests of On the Air back. It was basically like, this is your life, this is your On the Air life all over again. So I got to see Ducat, Josh Heimer Gadget, Jason Mulliken, Chris Leslie, Charles Weber, Storage Ninja. We see him all around all the time, but it's always good to see him. And of course, Stephen Smith. And it was just a blast to reconnect with all these people all at once. So definitely looking forward to next year's Spice World.
Can I make some shout outs before we talk about the Undercover IT hashtag?
Definitely.
Okay, I just want to say hey to Nerdy Dad and Steven Simmons. Steven, I know that you're always watching. It was awesome to get to meet you. And then all of the other Spice heads I got to say hi to.
Awesome.
And only April, it was really great getting to meet you. And I know it was your first Spice World, and I hope I didn't come off too strong. So how about that hashtag? Hey.
Well, real quick, so if you are watching today and you also want to be on the air, we're going to be pushing out a survey later in the show, so definitely fill that out. We'd love to have you guys on, especially if you guys are the ones tuning in every week. We'd love to have you guys on and meet you guys in person. But the hashtag, I'm glad that you brought that up, Chelsea, because we have a good one this week. So as we mentioned, this week's show is all about Flash Undercover. And so the question that we posted in the community was, if you could go undercover anywhere, where would it be? And we had some hilarious responses. Thanks to everyone who participated. Especially thanks to everyone who submitted Playboy Mansion, because there was like 30 of those responses. I totally should have seen that coming. I don't know why I didn't. But the winner of the best answer goes to Koala Domingo, who said the Vatican Apostolic, did I say that right? Apostolic Library and the private archives, because you know there's some really interesting and cool stuff that we're totally not allowed to see in there. And I did want to give a special shout out to Sarah, Green Gal Sarah. Even though you're not eligible for the prize, unfortunately, your answer of I would go undercover as one of the princesses at Disneyland is hilarious. It definitely made me laugh. So if you guys have your own answers of where you would go undercover, if you could, post them in the chat with the hashtag #ITUndercover, and Chelsea will be reading some of the best ones, and you could be winning one of those Amazon gift cards. So good luck to everybody. So back to Flash Undercover. We're obviously here today to talk about Flash and kind of where the market's going with that, some of the things that folks need to really start being aware of. Abasi, do you kind of mind sharing with us a little bit, what is your environment like, and what are you guys doing with Flash?
So right now, we, just like any IT environment, you're seeing where you can add capacity and performance. And we have 35 virtual servers. So we need to, the virtual environment is going to always tax the RAM and the hard drive as much as possible. So we're going to give as much performance as possible. So we're looking to upgrade our, put as much performance as possible into our drive. So all of our new servers have either flash drives or a hybrid flash if we need more capacity. So the new drives that have like 3 or 4 terabytes with a built-in 8 gig SSD for performance. We love those drives. We're seeing some gains out of that, and the fact that we don't have to, those have like, I guess, built-in hardware controllers in that to allocate for the performance. That's great too. We're also looking to upgrade our SAN environment, our SAN unit as well. And in that, we're trying to get as much flash as possible, as well as capacity. So when you size out a SAN, you want to get as much flash for your live data and as much storage for your not so live data.
Sure.
So that's how we're looking. And that's in the server room and in a back-end data center. Now, when we move over to the desktops and laptops, because of the price points now with Flash, where all new laptops and desktops get flash drives out of the box, and that was something that we couldn't consider just a few years ago because of the Flash, the price points, but now we can. And so now even in desktops, we're putting in laptop 2.5-inch drives, and we have to be creative in terms of fitting the 2.5-inch drive into a 3.5-inch hard drive slot.
Now, for your server storage, you guys are actually in the process of evaluating a couple of different flash options,
Yes.
and you actually got to participate in the Micron Spice panel.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was your experience like? What did you find?
So when we received the drives, we were trying to figure out what was the best way to really test it, because we are, I guess, under a normal ignorance saying that thinking of SSD was always all one speed. So you have the spinning disk. And the one thing, I guess, SSD, they don't really advertise like how fast they are. Like with the spinning disk, you have the RPMs, the 5400 to 7200 to 10,000 spinning. So with SSDs, nothing spinning, so you're thinking this is the same speed. So what we did was we were like, okay, you know what? The most taxing job out of a hard drive is the boot up. So let's clone our drive. Let's clone one of our servers, and then see if it boots up faster or slow with the Micron drive. So when we did that, we realized that we got 6 seconds of gain from 50 seconds to 44 seconds, going from another SSD vendor over to the Micron drive, and that was like really impressive for us.
6 seconds. That doesn't sound like a whole lot of time, but you know, is that significant for you? Is that a big deal?
Well, when you're dealing with thousands and sometimes millions of requests that's going to the servers, that across the board saves a lot of time.
And so just comparing them in equal environments, basically like a Pepsi challenge, flash options, and so that's
and that's the reason why we did that, because we didn't know what other test that we can do that actually like really put some heat into the test to put the Micron drive to its paces. But when we did that, we were like, okay, now we're impressed.
This is pretty legit. Yeah. And so Scott, I mean, you also helped out with that Spice panel. You worked with some of the other Spice heads that were working with that. What did you find? What were kind of their experiences?
Well, so for Micron, it was actually kind of a first for us. So we've been very historically, for people that aren't familiar with the name Micron, you know, they think of us as a component company or selling to just the Dells, IBM, HPs of the world, because we were OEM centric. This M510DC Spice panel was the first real IT pro centric pre-launch effort that Micron's really done in this market. It was a great activity. Shout out to Mark Miller, MPK, Abasi, and a couple of the others that were on the Spice panel. But it gave us an opportunity to truly see end user modeling of our products. To Abasi's point, we spent a lot of time meeting the specifications of what the drive has to be to put into those servers and standards and whatever else, but that never told us what these guys deal with on a daily basis. And so having access to this group of people to tell us how their real world environments are working allowed us to articulate the drive a little bit better. And the M510DC actually was the first drive Micron's publicly launched that had all of its case studies, white papers, and history pre-release material done by the IT pros here on the Spice panel. So,
did you have any other like cool stories that you heard of?
So one of our Spice panelists, Twisted Fish, Troy, sorry you couldn't be here.
Yeah.
He actually gave us some analysis. We did an actual case study white paper with him and his organization MedVet, and it's an organization of veterinary clinics in the Columbus, Ohio, and central region, and he put it into a platform and said, well, let's see what it takes to do radiology on animals. So apparently it takes about 15 minutes for a traditional server to load the image of an x-ray of a pet. And they get billed by how many pictures they analyze and do that kind of stuff from a radiology point of view. And he went from 15 minutes a picture to 6 seconds or less.
Oh my gosh.
And so back to this timing thing.
Real world.
What would you do with your day?
The dollars you save. He actually was very kind, did all the math, posted it in the panel, and we ended up posting it. He saves $650,000 just by putting one drive into the system.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's crazy.
It was really cool to get that kind of information out of the Spice panel and what IT pros really are doing with the products.
Yeah, so for those of you guys who don't know, which is probably all of you, Troy Collins, aka Twisted Fish, was supposed to be on the show today, and he unfortunately had to cancel at the last minute, so definitely good to still have his input in, Troy. Hope you're doing well. We'd love to have you back on. Now, I did want to talk about security, because you know it's one of these things that Flash, when people talk about Flash, they talk about the performance, they talk about power savings, they probably talk about the price as well, but security isn't something that always tends to come up that often. Scott, can you tell us, why is security in your storage an important issue?
Well, it's interesting because we think about the market and you listen almost on a monthly basis, if not weekly, you hear about data breaches. eBay is our best example of where to find corrupt data because people are wholesaling hardware out on eBay and not realizing that they're putting sensitive data onto the open market. So things like the target breaches, things like that, those can all be controlled to some level with some levels of encryption or security inside systems. In traditional architectures with spin and media, you have to use software encryption or even hardware-based drives, but there's a tax to doing so. When you take security, you put it on a flash media, you don't lose the performance gains that you get from flash by adding the security layer on top of it. So it allows customers and IT pros to be able to launch into the more secure environments easier with the adoption of the flash technology as well.
Yes, I've run BitLocker on my laptops before, and it's a huge pain.
Yep.
It's so slow.
So if you switch out of BitLocker from our good friends at Microsoft into a hardware SSD from Micron, for example, you can actually speed the entire system up and not even realize that, that it's there, if you will.
And so let's, I mean, the M510DC, what are some of those encryption features that make it so secure?
So M510DC is the first SATA SSD on the market to actually launch a TCG-E or an enterprise level encryption algorithm, which allows you to do RAID stripe environments and all that kind of good stuff alongside your hard drives. You can even, if you want to, put them in the same RAID groups. And it gives you that ability to implement your security features right away. And it comes into play not only in the upfront as you're encrypting, but also on the back end as you may have to replace drives or cleanse drives or sanitize them. You get much added benefit by using things like the M510DC.
Because I have heard things like you have to erase flash drives like 5 times before it's actually truly sanitized. Is that true, or where did that kind of rumor come from?
If you look at the historical hard drive market, it's a magnetic media, so of course you can magnetize it, you can go rewrite it, but you can always grab bits of the magnetized film, if you will, and reconstruct data. So they put the same concepts to flash and said, well, you can't really erase flash. And there's been a couple of reports out there that have said that, well, you don't really do it. But flash is pretty straightforward. It's very binary. It's a 1 or it's a 0. If I erase the flash drive, it's erased. You cannot recover old data because there's nothing there. And so that's one of the advantages to flash. And if you are required, because there's a lot of government agencies and other things that require this overwrite technique to cleanse a drive, a traditional hard drive can take up to 10 hours to do a true full sanitization loop. A Micron or other SSD products can only take anywhere from 5 minutes to maybe even an hour tops for these worst case conditions that you have to go erase it, rewrite it, erase it, 5 or 6 times.
And you actually have an interesting story about having to show off this actual issue.
Yeah, so when we first started doing stuff with government, they're always fun, and then when you get into the military, it's even more entertaining. And so we had a proof point where I had 4 4-star generals, the CIO of the Marines, the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy sitting in a room.
Oh my goodness.
And we had to shut the door with the exception of being escorted out for breaks and watch a hard drive do its decryption by way of all of this erasure process. And we put our flash drive on the other computer system. Our drive was done in a matter of less than an hour through the worst case military sanitization routine. And we had to sit there and watch the hard drive do it. So we actually ended up doing 5 SSDs in the course of the day while we were still waiting for 1 hard drive.
How long did the spinning disk drive take?
It took almost 8 hours.
Almost 8 hours. So you're in this room with 4 4-star generals for 8 hours.
Yeah.
What did you? What was that like?
It was interesting because they're IT pros of their own right. They're the CIO, so it's not like they're totally the military, but we spent a lot of time just trying to pull a little bit of the non-military out of them and get them talking about the IT stuff. But it was still a little bit on the, yep, I'm going to sit here and be very polite and not say anything. And there's MPs sitting outside the door with guns. So
wow,
it was entertaining.
Might have been quicker to put the guns to the drives.
Yeah, that would have been a quicker way to erase the drive, just like go into it like that. And Abasi, let me ask you, obviously, you're not having millions of dollars worth of financial transactions. Right. You're also presumably not housing any military secrets. We're just going to assume that for the time being. But is security still an issue for you in the data that you store?
Well, anytime you're protecting data, you want to see where the weak points are. So you kind of like put the hat of the hacker, like what will make our information valuable to even be someone worthy of being stolen. So one thing we realize is that, especially in our student information system, we have a lot of identifiable information for all the students. And that could be a right target for a hacker who maybe want to start setting up new credit card accounts, which is becoming a big problem. Across the world. So we are looking at security on that level and making sure that we're ahead of the curve or ahead of the hacker in terms of preventing any stolen data.
Because you've got kids that are 16, 17.
Right, and right. So every bit of data for the students can create credit cards in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So for every student. So we want to make sure that that's protected as much as possible. Also, I mean, from a security standpoint, you start with permissions first. So obviously we're making sure whoever has access to that we have auditing in place at every level. And of course now with having the speed of hard drive encryption, that's something to be considered, because before you wouldn't really consider it in a production environment because of the slowness that will come from like a Microsoft BitLocker or what have you.
Right. All right. Well, I definitely, before going any further, wanted to check in to see with our chat desk. I understand we've got some activity. Chelsea, how are things going in the chat desk right now?
So much activity. The first question of the day is going to come from a spice worker named Chelsea. To M.2 or not to M.2? That is the question. And what type of user usually benefits from its extra speed?
That is a great question, Spiceworker Chelsea.
Yeah. So I'm going to take assumption that one's for me.
Yeah.
To be a little geeky out on the technology, one thing that's been unique about the market is hard drives have a required form factor, and I brought a few show toys just for fun. So this is your traditional 2.5-inch form factor, and you're stuck using this because of the rotational disks that are inside of it. You get into 3.5, it's a little bit bigger, so you can get more space for 8 terabytes. But what Flash has been able to do is, I don't have to think about this form factor anymore. I can actually do something a little more unique. I can put it in different footprints. So what has come up in the industry is the concept of an M.2, which is now also referred to as the gumstick drive. I can put up to 1 terabyte of information in this gumstick, or I can put 1 terabyte of information in this footprint. Now, if I'm building a new laptop, a tablet, anything like that, that we're all trying to go bigger phones but smaller computers, this is the only real way you can get there. It has two distinct advantages. You get the speed of Flash, and you get the form factor shrinking capability that only a flash drive can give you. Now, if you move out of the PC space and you go into more of the data center space, Drive 0 has historically been in every server your boot drive. You have to use that slot, so you're stuck losing one slot of space just to get the server to come up. This can now go back in on the motherboard, which also exists in a lot of gaming platforms that are out there, and can become that boot drive or a cache type drive inside the box and give you even more storage. And if you're talking 4 terabytes of space per drive slot, you just freed up 4 terabytes of space and still get the performance adder to the platform. So that's where 2M.2 is definitely a way to go, and it offers a lot of flexibility that your traditional 2.5-inch drives don't.
So as far as the user, it would be people with form factor and gamers?
Yeah, and all of the new, there you go, try to get them together. All of the new server platforms that are releasing in 2016 will actually have these built into them, because the year of Flash hit in 2014 when every server platform offered Flash. It was no longer do you think you wanted it, it's which kind do you want. So the year of SSD's been here, now the year of implementation of unique form factors is coming.
Yes. And I've actually seen servers come with embedded hypervisors, so it'll be nice to have those booting up with that kind of level of speed.
All right. Chelsea, can we get some more questions?
Yes, this is going to be a combo. It's coming from R. Blindy and where's Stickman? Stickman00. Basically, they want to know what is the Micron Crucial relationship, and then Stickman00 specifically wants to know, does Micron and Crucial have a Hollywood celebrity relationship type nickname, like Mike Crucial or Ron? These words.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it's a little known secret that Micron owns Crucial. Actually, so Crucial is a subsidiary of Micron. It's become the public arm of Micron. Micron, over the history of the company, has been very OEM-centric. So you'll see Micron products in almost every platform you ever buy, whether it be server, storage, even laptop to some extent, but it's usually buried under an OEM label. And so you really don't understand that we're there. Crucial gave us that visual presence and that direct access to our IT pros and friends like that. So we sell a lot of products under a Crucial branded product, as well as a lot of the Micron product, like the M510DC, for example, is a Micron branded drive available through Crucial. So it's a wonderful relationship. You know, we do get manis and petties a lot. We have our own facilities. I have a counterpart that's in our Crucial division that does a lot of work. We had a big presence at Spiceworld last week, where both Micron and Crucial employees were there. We gave away a big cool gaming system and things like that. So it's great that we have that relationship, and we're starting to be more vocal about the Micron underneath of Crucial by changing the logos to Crucial by Micron. Okay. But you'll see it's not going away. We're never going to do anything to get rid of it. It's a beautiful outlet and a great way for IT pros that watch the show to have access to Micron expertise.
Okay, so the bromance name is not My Crucial, it's actually Crucial by Micron.
Yeah,
okay, that's a lot less fun, but it definitely
I like
probably
Crucial,
makes
But you know, I think a lot of IT pros like myself thought that you guys just acquired Crucial by saying that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been one of those fun ones that we've been trying to address and make it more aware that they're both Micron, and it's great. You get support any way you need it, type of thing. So.
All right, Chelsea, let's get some more questions, please.
All right, I think we're having too much fun here, and we need to bring it down a notch. Thankfully, Star Geeker is helping us out. He wants to know, are SSDs similar to hard drives as to not mix different read/write speeds in the RAID array?
So it's a very good question, and I'd love to get Abasi's feel. Sorry, I'm going to play up the stage a little bit.
Yes, all right.
If you put SSDs with hard drives in a specific RAID array, you will hamper the capability of the SSD because you're only as good as your weakest link, just like in a chain link fence or anything else. You can mix them and match them, but to truly utilize flash technology the way you want to, you should do a standalone array. And so like a lot of the new platforms that are coming out in the hyper-converged space and all that kind of stuff, put in dedicated SSD sections, then put in the hard drive section behind it. And you can tear it and cache it. And there's all kinds of cool new tools out there. VMware's vSAN is a good example of that, where you can do things and be creative with those architectures. So you should try to keep them together in groupings of performance. Just like if you took a 15K and a 10K and mixed them together, you don't really want to take a high-performance SSD and stick it with a 10K drive because you're going to hamper its capabilities.
Right. And then what you also want to do, if you have that in a RAID array, just create another LUN for the just a flash, so all the flash is working at its own speed.
All right, Chelsea, good question. Some more?
Yes, more.
Más preguntas.
Bring up.
Okay, well, I just want to remind you all out there, don't forget about the hashtag IT Undercover slogan tagline that you guys are all supposed to be posting. I do want to share one real quick with you.
Okay.
I don't know how to say your name, so Ncedal, that's the best I'm going to do, Spicehead Ncedal, goes, hashtag IT Undercover, Sesame Street taping, get the real story behind all the drama between Big Bird and Cookie Monster.
Okay.
Too much
I've
fun.
actually seen behind the scenes videos of Sesame Street. It's kind of terrifying because you see like Elmo just like on a dude's hand, like walking around and talking. Yeah, it's kind of a little unnerving,
awesome.
but yeah, definitely agree.
That's funny.
Our next Spicehead question comes from B. Garvey. He is not a Sesame Street character, but I will pretend to be a puppet. Is there a boot level encryption on USB available across OS platforms?
And you have to answer like Cookie Monster.
There you go.
Sad fact, I played the Cookie Monster in my preschool play. It's never going to happen. No, so yeah, the boot level encryption is available across multiple platforms. So for example, in the server world, you've got your Linux OSs, you've got the VMware platform, you've got Windows Server, Hyper-V, all that kind of stuff. It's across the board of all of those solutions. In fact, Micron is the first SSD to actually be certified for Windows Server as an encryptable drive. So.
All right. Sad we didn't get the Cookie Monster, but that's all right. We'll take
Yeah,
that.
it was boring. But
I'm a bad actor. I'm a bad actor as it is.
He's
So.
got the blue.
All right, Chelsea, can we get a few more?
yes, absolutely. This next one is going to be coming from Jeremy5515. What are the larger size Micron SSD, where's his question? SSD storage available for the business environment? What are the larger
largest,
size
yeah.
SSDs for the
So right
business
now,
environment?
yeah, so it depends on the technology. So one of the unique things about SSD architectures is we can use multiple interfaces for our drives. So you can use a SATA drive, which is the M510DC we're giving away. You can use a SAS drive, or you can use a PCIe type drive. And so the capacities vary across those. Right now, the SATA solutions are anywhere from up to 1 terabyte of usable space, getting into 2 and 4 terabytes over the next couple of years. The SAS space, we've recently announced a 4 terabyte drive, and then we're going to be having 4 terabyte and larger PCIe solutions. And a lot of that has to do with the physical form factor. As I was kind of showing you the M.2 shrinking, to be able to get to high densities, you still have to keep a little bit larger form factor. So when you get into the bigger drives, you end up with a higher Z height, traditional 2.5-inch small form factor, or PCIe add-in card style levels. But yeah, 4 terabytes is kind of the high point right now. The sweet spot in the market for the business applications tend to be right around the 1 terabyte right now. And we see that the business space kind of doubles year over year, where the laptop space is kind of hovering in the 128 to 256 space because of the add-in of all the cloud storage space.
Sure, yeah. And Abasi, you said you were looking at the half terabyte for what for
Yes,
storage,
we
yeah.
have the 480s,
Yeah.
so we're looking at that. Although we have a lot of 128s and 240s.
In your laptops?
In the laptops
Yeah.
and the desktops. But in the servers, we're trying to get as much storage as possible. So we've been doing a lot of the hybrid drives, the 4 terabytes with the 8 gig SSD built in.
To try to save cost or
Right, it's like best of both worlds.
Yeah.
We get a little performance bump and we get the full storage as we
Yeah.
need.
Now, I did want to talk briefly about price, because I understand in addition to the security features, that M510 DC, a lot of people are talking about that as kind of a good entry level flash. Is that kind of where does that the pricing fit in with the rest of the offerings that Micron
Yeah,
has?
so that has definitely been one of the biggest gaps, and for a lot of the IT pros that are trying to put budgets together and things like that, the upfront cost or the capex piece of an SSD has always been problematic because it's more expensive than a hard drive. We're never going to match pricing with a hard drive, but we're certainly coming down in costs. I sold my first SSD back in 2008. It was $30,000.
For how big?
For 73 gigs of
73 gigs.
So
Chump change.
when you're doing it like now in a $2+ million SAN, that you can almost make sense with that. But as we get into the server-based storage architectures of today, we've seen that from this ultra high, ultra expensive product down into bands of SSDs. So to Abasi's point, we don't do 5.4, 7.2, 10K drives. SSDs have migrated more towards the endurance characteristics because you have write intensive, which are classified as 10 drive writes per day, and then read intensive, which are anywhere from 1 to less than 1 drive write a day. Which means if I have a 480 gig drive, I'm writing less than 480 gig to that drive in a given day. Those tend to be very cost-friendly, cost-sensitive, if you will, where in the class of consumer notebooks today, we're sub 50 cents a gigabyte for a drive, which is reasonable for a 128 gig. You can get it for $60 or less. And in the enterprise or data center space, with the features that you have to have for the 24/7 operation, you're hovering, depending on where you get it and how you pay for it, the dollar range or sub-dollar range, even down into the 75 cents or less range. And at that price point, it makes adoption of something like an M510 DC for the right workloads very attractive. So.
All right. Well, Chelsea, can we get one more question, please?
One more, absolutely. This one is coming from Jay Leroy. What is the reliability difference between the consumer units versus what we are getting in the high-end SAN units at 10 times the price?
Very good question.
Yeah, it plays right into what we were just talking about. So the consumer market's focused on, in the laptop environment, you have the want for instant speed, but you don't have a heavy use. So even the most aggressive user of a drive in a laptop environment, we've actually modeled it out. It's about 25 terabytes of data a day that you write to a drive. So I can easily design a consumer-centric $60 128 gig type drive to manage that kind of workload. When you get into the data center space, we're now seeing tiers of data center needs. Read-centric, definitely less expensive. High performance, where I'm writing to it all the time, where I have an unknown level of write data that I need to go to. You need a higher level of reliability. Means we do more on the back end. We hide a little bit more in the back of the SSD, so the price points do go up. Dirty little secret, direct acquirement of SSDs from like a Micron or from other OEMs tends to be less expensive than buying it directly through the vendors because there's a markup involved. I won't throw anybody under the bus, but several 100% markups do tend to exist in that space.
Duly noted.
So there are
You'll share with the
capabilities.
boss, yeah.
And for all the IT pros out there, I'll be honest, you can start articulating what drive you want in your system. So if you go out and do your research and you play with these drives and you do it in a home office or you're doing it in your labs, you can go talk to a lot of these newer vendors out there that are avoiding the SAN space and going to the more server storage or hybrid or even hyper-converged and ask them to put a certain drive in, and they're able to do that much more uniquely than some of the OEM vendors can.
And that's something we plan to do with our new SANS purchase, because the gains that I saw with the Micron drive, I definitely want that into the enterprise storage.
Right. All right, well, thanks, Chelsea. We're going to check back with you unless you have one more question. One more question. We'll do one more question.
Okay, this one comes from Spicehead Aaron Morris. At what point does performance hinder your implementations of encryption of all data, especially in regards to access to data on the fly? How do you measure?
So the beauty thing on an SSD front, hardware-based encryption, if you're utilizing it in a proper fashion, there's no performance hit whatsoever. You don't actually see any impact at all. When you put a software encryption layer on top of it, you can have impact to your overall net performance. The flip side of that question he asked about, where do you see the bandwidth limitations, if you will, we have noted that there are a lot of people that talk about ultra high performance, multi-gigabytes per second of capability. There's still a inherent system level architecture where if I put too many drives together or too fast, they all slow down because the pipe on the back end is too small. So a lot of the things that we do as system level architectures is articulate how much RAM, how much drive, and how much storage as far as bulk storage you need to make your system work the most efficient way you can. And we've worked with IT pros like Abasi and others where we can say, okay, you don't need 24 SSDs, you need 8, because by the time you get to number 9 or 10, you've overwhelmed the system. Start throwing in your bulk SATA to get your storage or whatever else, and then play around with the RAM architecture. So it's a very interesting question, but at the encryption level, because the way flash storage works and the way our hardware encryption engines are built into it, there's absolutely no hindrance to your system performance.
Interesting. Well, one of the things I definitely wanted to touch on before, while we still have time on the show, is we've talked about security, we've talked about performance. Now, reliability, this is one that is still kind of somewhat hotly contested within the perception of the community. Abasi, it sounds like you guys are pretty fully committed to going to Flash for your next upgrade. Is reliability and longevity a concern for you? What's kind of your take on that?
Well, very much so, because our data is, our lifeline. So the way we look at it, and I've seen a lot of like early adopters or the first wave of flash drives, and there's a whole bunch of articles on the internet saying that they fail, that they end of life sooner than spinning disks, and that's been a concern. But we want the performance we need it, so we're looking at it as just like we would any IT manager, just as a redundancy level. So we'll just have extra drives ready to go, and that's how we handled storage needs or shortfalls. Even when we were dealing with the SCSI 10,000 spinning disk, we just always had no matter how good the enterprise drive was,
Right.
it was going to fail. So we just had extra drives ready to go to back up.
So how long are you expecting your flash drives to last? Like, what is your typical hardware refresh?
I'm hoping that they last as long as a spinning disk. So
Yeah.
I don't want to see a flash drive fail past the host hardware it's in, the laptop, the SAN environment, the server. I'm hoping that the storage lasts as long as whatever body it's in.
And Scott, what about you? What's kind of your take as far as the evolution of flash as in terms of a long-term storage device?
So it's an interesting question, and to Abasi's point, he kind of referenced the idea of this Olympic cadence of hardware replacement. Everybody wants to buy hardware and have it last a certain number of years, and it's almost every 4 years, so 3 to 5 years is the usual refresh cycle, so we call it the Olympic cadence. And the goal is, to your point, to have a drive outlast the system to a point where you could even potentially use it in the next system around. Kind of back to the online question as well as to your comment, if you put the wrong type of drive into an environment, you can destroy a flash drive pretty quickly. They have a finite life to them. The beauty is we can predict up to literally the day or hour that drive is going to fail. It's not going to be a catastrophic, oops, the platter stopped spinning, I got to go do a hot swap last minute. You can schedule your replacements of these drives if you were to have an issue with them. So there are aspects of flash that it does wear out, but the wear out characteristics are much more predictable and much more friendly to the IT environment, because I don't have to call in a guy on Sunday afternoon to go in and do a after hours expensive IT replacement of a system. I can say, you know what, next Tuesday I think is a good time to bring him in because he's going to be in there doing some other work anyway. And those types of methods of being able to manage through the reliability or longevity of the SSDs.
And that features an IT director's dream.
To know the exact day.
Look at me.
Sorry. Yeah. Do you have more questions?
Well, to kind of piggyback off
Yeah.
what you all are talking about, Stargeeker and Rojo Loco were wondering, how long is the warranty on Micron SSDs?
So the Micron products have multiple layers of that. Our consumer-centric drives that are put in laptops, things like that, have a 3-year warranty to them, plus this concept of total bytes written that's attached to SSDs. That's the longevity value. We can actually measure it and we map to it. Our data center class products like the 510DC and all of our SATA and SAS drives that are in that space, and even PCIe, have a 5-year lifetime to them. So we're going to outlive or match to the worst case cadence of that, the capabilities of all those data center architectures.
All right.
And that's the warranty that most hard drives had all along anyway. So.
All right. Chelsea, do we have more questions?
Oh my gosh, we have so many questions. Some interesting ones that have been popping up. I'm kind of just going through the list right now. It had something to do with the hybrid. Okay, Dwayne Normand 69. What is the benefits of having an SSD hybrid versus a regular hard disk? That's kind of cool.
Well, one thing that was a selling point for us is the performance. So kind of like in a SAN unit that uses, that has mass storage but has flash as a cache, it uses that cache for let's say the database applications,
Sure.
the stuff that's always going to be the data written to. So you're kind of like cheating the performance by leveraging the flash for its performance and still having the storage in the back end. Now, if you need that for a bigger, let's say, data set, then you would want to go all flash. But most like operating systems, they put it's not that much data that's being written to or read from. So you kind of the hybrid drive can give you some level of performance bump instead of going to full flash.
Okay. All right. Chelsea, let's get some more questions.
Okay, this one is from Derek_A. Does SATA SSD versus SAS SSD or SAS SSD, is there really a difference in speed overall performance? When would SAS SSD be necessary?
So it's a fun question. So there are interface differences between the drives. So if you look at a SATA drive today, we're at the 6 gigabit level, which is roughly 550 megabytes per second max speed on the theoretical level. 600 is where the 6 gig comes from. But on a SAS front, we've actually started seeing them go from 6 to 12. So when you automatically have that 12 gig SAS, you're doubling the link. Another thing that's unique about the SAS architectures is this concept of dual port, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. This is the failover concept, where I can access the data on the drive from 2 unique locations, which actually gives you an even further bump in the performance. So when you're looking at it from a net, do I need just the flash storage? Because even a SATA drive compared to a SAS hard drive, I'm still faster. It has specs that say it can run faster, but in real world applications, you never see net speed on that drive because you're doing all the mixed read of data workloads. But when you're looking for actual bumps in performance, you go SATA, then you go SAS to this 12 gig concept, and then you go from 12 gig SAS into the PCIe space. And depending on the number of lanes of PCIe, you can get even faster.
Yeah, and you even mentioned earlier when you were talking about the different interfaces, I think you said that the SATA was still, the max capacity was still at 1 gigabyte and, I'm sorry, 1 terabyte. And then, and then the SAS you were up to 4, is that right? So I mean, what's kind of the differences in that?
Well, it comes back to the performance deltas of it. If I can only write max of about 550 megabytes per second, if I get much larger than 4 terabytes or into the 8 terabyte class, I can't utilize the capacity I've just put in there to the extent that I'd want to behind a flash interface. So that's when you go to a SAS or a PCIe where you can scale it much more efficiently and actually get to that depth of data. If I'm talking bulk storage and read-centric environments, it's still fine to utilize that because you're not looking for the performance. But if you need performance and capacity, you switch out the interface to get to where you need to be.
All right. Well, Chelsea, can we get more questions?
Absolutely. This one is from Jeremy5515. What stands out with Micron storage encryption from others?
So Micron's had a bunch of firsts, I guess is the way to look at it. Our M500DC was the first SSD for the laptop environment. The M500DC and 510DC, the two data center products we have, are the first to have TCG-E enabled encryption into the market space. So,
and TCG stands for?
Trusted Computing Group is an organization that put together the standards. And so they have an Opal standard for point-to-point laptop environments, and they have an enterprise SSC, ABC, a bunch of different things. They got 27,000 specs. Yeah, exactly.
Like more acronyms than
more acronyms. I can name off a few. But having those available are different than, so a lot of the SSDs out there say we have 256-bit AES and all that kind of stuff, and we have encryption that we do native on our drive for the data that's actually on our drive, the way we manage it in the back end. But from a host perspective, we're the only drive today in the SATA space, and we also have SAS drives as well as PCIe that can do this, that allow you to use host-based TCG-E encryption through the different architectures to utilize hardware encryption over software.
Chelsea, do we have one more?
I have more. I'm going to make it a compound question. The first part will be coming from RH Designs, LLC. Hey, shameless plug, but that's great. Do SSDs have life expectancies based on hours still? Will that ever go away? And part 2 is coming from Nerdy Dad. How does the lifespan of an SSD compare to an HDD?
So this goes back to the concept we've talked about too, which is great, is this drive writes per day, or how many times I could rewrite data into the drive, has become the standard for the endurance on an SSD. So if a drive is a 1 drive write per day product, I can write the density of that drive every day for the entire 5 years and it won't wear out. And I can predict that. We actually have algorithms and smart attributes in the drive that count the expected life down from 100 or up to 100 depending on the drive. So I can tell you exactly when it's going to wear out. Now there's still this concept of MTTF, or million hours. So we classify and qualify all of our drives to a 2 million hour standard in the enterprise space. But historically, based on all the QA testing, I have a drive we released in 2009 that is still running in our QA lab today. And it's been running nonstop through data. And its cumulative MTTF is 12 million hours. So the hours of SSD life don't really exist from a perspective of I can wear them out in hours unless you misuse them. So if I'm going to take a drive designed for 1 drive write per day swim lane, so think 5400 RPM type drive equivalent, and I stick it in a 15K socket, which is really a 10 drive write per day socket, I will wear it out faster, but I can still predict exactly when it's going to go.
Chelsea, do we have any more questions?
We sure do. This one comes from Ray Austin too. He's a regular on the Air audience.
On the reg.
Yeah, on the air. What is the recommended SSD for business class laptops?
So for the laptop environment, business class, the M600 drive is something that we offer through both Crucial and Micron. You can get it either way. There's also the Crucial MX200, which is the Crucial branded version of a drive. Those products work and are designed exactly for this corporate client or business laptop environment. Encryptable, they run really fast. They're up to 1 terabyte in capacity, and they're qualified across a majority of the platforms that exist that can take a 2.5-inch drive. And then we also do actually have that M.2 form factor in that M600 and MX200 product.
And this question is from Spiceworker Justin. So I've actually heard that flash storage, there's actually a transitional phase. You actually need to break in your flash storage before you can kind of understand what the kind of long-term performance is going to be like. Is that true? And if so, why does that happen?
So there is if you call it a break-in, but a performance characteristic change that takes place in a flash media device that doesn't exist in a hard drive. Basically, when we ship a drive to you, it comes in perfectly empty. And when you fill it up, we have to get to a point where I have to erase data to rewrite data. It's not an overwrite architecture like a hard drive. And so when it first gets this fresh out of box condition, it runs really, really fast. It'll hit a point where it slows down a little bit because we have to get this garbage collection routine kicked in the back end of the drive. And that's where you get to your steady state performance. One of the big things for a lot of IT pros to understand is a consumer drive tends to focus on fresh out of box numbers because the drive can always get itself back to that point. When it's sitting idle on your desk, you're sitting here watching the On the Air on your computer, it's actually doing that in the background because it has cycles to do it. When you stick it in a data center or any other kind of an environment, it's always on.
Yeah.
And so you have to look at the steady state number. So if you take a data sheet, you take a consumer drive versus a data center drive, the data center drive is going to give you a lower number, but it's going to sustain that number. The consumer drive, if you were to stick it in that environment, may actually get even worse because it's not designed for that environment.
I see.
And so there's a characteristic
Yeah.
break-in-ish, if you will, but we'll always classify our data center or enterprise drives with the guaranteed no less than this performance number to help with that problem.
We have more questions?
Yes. This one is from Brandon Clone 1. Pricing for SSDs has gone from approximately $1 per gig to approximately 30 cents per gig over the years. What is the reason for this, and will prices continue to fall? And then part 2 of that question would be for Abasi. What price would you like to see it at?
I'll let him answer that.
Well, you know, it's funny because
Free 99.
Right, yeah, free 99 for everything. Just keep the test Spice panel drives coming.
There you go.
That's a really good question. I think that when we started looking at upgrading our desktops and our laptops, we checked different vendors, and the $60 to $50 price point was like, oh wow, so we get 2 for $100. Now it's easy, we get 20 drives for like $1,000. And so that's, I would say $50 for a drive that can replace. So for $50, $60, we got 120 gig drives. We've seen the 240s under 100 now. So that's like acceptable price points for the desktops and laptops. When it comes to the server drives, we would love the enterprise drives to get into that range, but we know that that's going to be a higher price point. But even still, right now, I think all flash drives are an approachable budget range for any IT manager, IT director.
Yeah. And so to answer the first half of that, what's driven this? If you look back to that $30,000 drive I sold, it has things to do with a lot of the back-end architectures, things like what we call over-provisioning or the type of media. When I first sold drives, they were single-level cell media, meaning I get 1-for-1 bit location. And that's an more expensive media than what we're using today, which is multi-level cell and even some triple-level cell or TLC technologies. By doing that, I'm cramming more data in the same space, so I'm getting a lower cost solution. Then if I look at it from the adaptability of the drive, people realize that going up here at this $30,000 drive was just overkill. As we come down in these endurance characteristics and into the consumer space where we've now mapped it, we know exactly how bad the worst user is of the data, we can pull out all that back end that we don't need anymore, put in the lower cost but still reliable media, because there are some aspects of putting unreliable media in there, that you can get those price points into those sub-dollar range and even down to the 30-cent type range for high volume consumer type drives and things like that. So And then it's just sheer volume too.
Yeah.
We're actually selling enough of them that we can consume the back-end work.
The
that
R&D
goes into
costs.
it.
are
Yeah.
Right.
being-
And that's across
yeah.
the board for all of the vendors. So.
Right,
It's hard to get a laptop right now that doesn't have
It's true.
SSDs in it.
And for good reason. Chelsea, do we have one more question?
Sure. I
Yeah.
mean, we could have 10 more questions. If only I had more
2
time.
hour on the air.
Let's do it.
Okay, this next one is coming from Jimmy T.
Jimmy T.
Yeah, Jimmy. Yeah. What has been your top priority with security?
Now, I think our top priority with security wouldn't be so much hard drive as much as permissions based, because permissions based in an LDAP environment, Active Directory environment, can get all over the place. We just recently had an overly secure environment where our HR directory was not accessible by the new HR director. So we had to actually log in as the old HR director to get access to manipulate the permissions. And that was a good thing, you know,
Yeah.
where we were just overcompensating for the security. So for a security standpoint, it's more on the OS level, the network level, and not so much on the hard drive. However, we're gonna now, since we have the gains of the hardware, now we're going to be looking at the encryption level.
Yeah.
So if there's a stolen laptop or whatever,
Yes.
we know that data is not going to be copied anywhere, and hoping that there's no way to undermine that
Yeah.
hardware encryption would be nice.
Yeah, and so one of the beauties of the hardware-based encryption is the key algorithm that's used for this conversation topic is built into the drive at the individual drive level. So if I pull an encryption drive out of a system, plug it into another system, there's no way to authenticate the drive. It comes out as data, but it's jumbled zeros, ones. You don't even know what it is. It comes out, like the Matrix. But the thing that's unique about using the hardware-based encryption is we use the serial number of the drive as part of the hash that goes into the encryption algorithm. So the host sends over a key they want, we hash it with our serial number, and then use that to actually be the encryption key on the drive. So there's never the actual key passed on to the master side outside of their own master key. So there's absolutely no way to get the data off the drive, which is kind of what we've been focused on as far as the hardware-based encryption.
Well, guys, we are almost out of time, but I definitely wanted to give you guys one last opportunity to kind of share any final thoughts. Abasi, any final pieces of advice that you've got for the IT pros that are watching today who are maybe thinking about jumping into the flash pool, as we've been saying?
Do it. It's affordable on every level, data center, desktop. There's no reason, especially now with moving a lot of services over to the cloud. Now you can look at your local hard drive for performance. You know, a lot of storage is moving outside of the data center
For like the big old data storage, yeah.
And there's
it's cheap to
services,
store in the cloud. Yeah.
services, databases, emails, are going outside of the cloud. So now, when it comes to what you have on site in your data center, you can get the best speed for the buck instead of the best bang for the buck.
Flash and cloud, guys, that's the future. Let's jump on it. And Scott, any final takeaways that you want folks that are watching to walk away with?
Well, so from my point of view as a vendor, I could say some stuff, but as a personal also interest from an IT pro point of view, is we've relied
We'll get to
a
the
lot.
vendor stuff later.
We've relied a lot as users of this data on our vendor, the SAN vendor, the OEM vendors, to tell us what we want. We're now getting much more articulate about that. Flash or other media technologies, whatever you want to use, you can take more ownership of it. You can actually, because you're utilizing these new paths to get your solutions, ask for what you want, whether it be Micron or another product. The point is, we're at the changing over of where applications are focused around being able to use hard drives only and SSDs at a bump to where they are designed around SSDs expected to be in a system. So be more aware, be more than willing to talk to your people about it, do your research, and start noticing that things like all of the database architectures, all of the Linux-based environments are starting to find ways to truly utilize flash architectures moving forward, and you're going to see great things out of it. And just continue to be as smart as you guys are about all this stuff, because you guys are a wealth of resource to us as a vendor, and we're absolutely able to make things even more efficient if we work together as teams or as trusted partners versus just a vendor-supplier relationship kind of thing.
All right, and now the vendor stuff. If folks want more information about
Yeah,
Micron
so
and the M510DC, where should they
as
go?
far as micron.com/storage is our website that you have access to all of our data and everything like that. We have several folks on Spiceworks community. Sam Harmer and John Tagway are out there. They're our Spice experts, if you will. I'm still a lowly little Anaheim, so I got some work to do. But yeah, all of our products at micron.com/storage. The M510DC is our latest data center drive. It's focused in the read-centric environments. It is the cost leader from that perspective in the market for those types of workloads and environments. So we're really excited to see its adoption with the IT pro community and getting to know what the data centers really want, not what the vendors you traditionally sell to tell us what they want.
Right.
All right. Well, it is that time of the show that you guys have all been waiting for to find out who our winners are. Or winners, just kidding. Chelsea, do we know who our winners are?
Oh, we sure do. You guys, you're going to be super excited. That's right. I'm taking your questions that I've asked on air, and we're randomly selecting the best questions to be rewarded with prizes from Micron. Are you ready to find
AKA
out?
bribes, but yes.
AKA bribes, yeah. Bribes. Tons of bribes all day long. Okay, so our first 3 prizes are going to be the Amazon gift cards. Those are $20 value, brought to you by Micron, of course. Our first winner is going to be Koala Domingo. Congratulations. Then we have, that name again, Encito. Yeah. And then lastly, for the $20 Amazon gift card, courtesy of Micron, is going to JB Indy. Before I probably said J Blindy, but JB Indy might make a little bit more sense. So congratulations to you 3. You are the lucky recipients of a $20 Amazon gift card. Be sure to PM me, that's private message me in the community with your mailing address and your favorite color. Okay, and now for the big grand prize drawing. Don't forget, we have 2. The first winner is going to be Troy Jollymore. Congratulations.
Go, Troy.
And the second winner is going to be the Data Master, Jason K.
All right.
And wait, you don't even know what they're winning. I mean, maybe unless you remember from before.
There was a graphic next to your head.
Oh, there was a graphic. Do you want to know? Did it say the name too? Because it is the Micron M510 DC 480 gig SSD.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Love that
all
drive.
my winners, please make sure that you PM me your mailing address and your favorite color. And thank you so much for showing up to chat with these super cool questions. And congrats on the prizes. And now back to the lounge.
Thank you. Chelsea, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who hung out with us today. I want to thank our panelists, Abasi, Scott. Had a great time on with you guys. Hope you guys will come back and join us real soon.
My pleasure.
Thank you, and to everyone for hanging out with the chat. Congratulations to all of our winners today, and thanks for everyone who got your questions and your hashtags in. We will be back here in a couple of weeks. We got a really special episode. We're actually going to be doing a live Iron Chef style countdown challenge. So if you're interested in finding out what exactly that is, click on the registration button below the chat, and we'll hope to see you guys back here. But until then, until next time, guys, keep it safe, stay spicy, hug your server, hug your flash storage, and we'll see you guys back here next time. Bye, everybody.